There is no name in the world of Berserk that strikes a soldier's heart with more shaking fear than that of the Immortal Zodd.
Before the video begins, I just want to thank you for 1000 subscribers. I mean, what the actual hell, man, crazy number to me. I began roughly a year ago and did not expect to be here so soon, it feels like. I go into some more depth about my mental health and reasons for doing YouTube on my socials, so be sure to follow them linked down below. But thank you everyone who has joined me so far, and here is to another growthful year. Nosferatu Zodd earned his title due to his unending dominance on the battlefield for over 3 centuries, Nosferatu translating from archaic Romanian to vampire or undead. His power causes entire battalions to tremble in anticipation, and his design is ever more terrifying in his apostle form, taking the gigantic shape of a chimeric-like beast, almost reminiscent of the minotaur from Greek mythology, horned and furry with terrifying eyes and teeth. His role in the story is fluid, changing to fit the narrative, however always remaining central over key themes such as violence and combat. His nature is a continuous battle and surges forwards to find worthy opponents who can match his blade's strength. Alongside his usual routine of slaughtering countless individuals on the field, Zodd is engaged in a recurring showdown with his archenemy Skull Knight. They have a deep history still shrouded in mystery to this day, and every time the two meet on the waves of fate, the battle is thrilling to see. Zodd not only possesses an incredible durability, but also an ominous knowledge of the unknown concepts such as fate and the dealings within the astral layers of the universe. His tremendous age and insatiable lust for power have driven him to obtain secrets most apostles could not, and his understanding is much more elevated than most. He is a fountain of knowledge, a benchmark for strength, a servant of self, a slayer, and a beast. This is all established as early as his introduction, so let's take a glimpse at this monstrous entity and why he is such a fan favorite. Zodd is introduced by Judo's all-knowing ass, stating he is immensely powerful and a living legend who rejects permanent death, always eerily appearing on another battlefield. Guts, angered at Zodd's countless repelling of onslaughts from the mercenaries, charges in alone, claiming Zodd's death would come by his blade. As Guts runs down the halls, we see the scattered remains of the troops, bloodied and butchered as if they were popped like grapes. A stench of fear oozes from the perished faces, their last moments witnessing something inhuman coming to claim their life. And we meet Zodd, illuminated by the sputtering candle, a blade so wide and thick it can pierce and hold 2 armored men at once, the one wielding that blade using a single arm. His size and ferocity does not shake Guts' resolve, charging onwards with all his might. However, in a single swipe, Zodd launches him into a pillar with ease. The two engage in a fierce battle in which Guts is far outmatched. Despite this, he parries and moves with all his experience, impressing the beast who claims that none could stand the strength of his blade. Guts manages to actually dent Zodd with the power of plot armor, which causes the transformation. Erupting from an explosion of smoke, horns, and terrifying black fur, Zodd debuts his apostle form, which does alter as the story progresses, as Miura perfected his representation of his characters, slowly but surely. This is the only time we see Guts as scared as he is here, calling Zodd terror itself, and Zodd begins pummeling Guts in total glee at his ability to fight back. As expected, Guts gets dommed, so the band comes to support him, which infuriates Zodd, demolishing many of them offended by their intrusion. Griffith and Guts manage to wound him, taking an arm off, although he replaces it easily and is about to go for the final blow until he sees the egg of the king around Griffith's neck. With his profound knowledge and understanding of the God Hand and deeper rules of the universe, Zodd allows them to live, knowing their roles will be significantly more important down the path, announcing a chilling prophecy to Guts about the dire fate of his life. Zodd is explaining to us about the process of sacrificing for power and the eclipse, knowing that Griffith is intended for ascension. His wings explode from his back as he launches into the night sky in a rather dramatic and spooky fashion. Imagine having just experienced the unwavering wrath of the immortal Zodd in battle, and then he mentions something even more intimidating than he himself. It would seem an impossibility. Crazy talk. Zodd's presence can be felt regardless of his proximity, appearing once more at the battle for Doldry to supply Guts, someone whom he now has a curious interest in, his sword after Guts is destroyed. The throw is perfect, showing Zodd's strength and precision, and gives Guts the means to overcome his adversary. Sam Sulek looks stunning, the dynamic range casting darkness around him to create a striking visual, and the warrior trots off muttering about the upcoming events of the eclipse. These little exposition hints from characters such as Zodd creates an underlying uneasiness as we read. Despite the successes of the Band of the Hawk, whilst reading we can feel the sinister undertones of those working from the shadows slowly creeping up to close the Golden Age forever. Another example of his dominance is shown through the absolute evisceration of Wild, the first apostle mogging ever committed, landing behind him, flaunting those intimidating wings before ripping Wild apart harder than I would to Farni. Zodd's lack of tribalistic loyalty shows with his obvious loathing of Wild, claiming that to do as thou wilt does not bind apostle kind together, and therefore he operates upon his own set of ideals and morals. This is a recurring theme with Zodd, who has a heightened sense of things, not giving in to the lustful desires of other apostles such as Wild or the ones during the eclipse, a testament to his own discipline and clear ambitions to look for worthy warriors rather than feasting on innocent victims. There is certainly a code he upholds which creates a level of humanization missing from the majority of Berserk's antagonists. This humanization is why we are conflicted in how we should perceive Zodd, as he is not inherently evil despite the implications of being an apostle, nor can we entrust him to uphold distinct compassionate morals due to the cold, bloody nature of his lifestyle. Truly a compelling individual who Guts never really figures out either. I also love the lack of thoroughness, dropping some ominous exposition before taking off once more, and I could bet a lot of money he chuckled to himself at the perplexed looks upon the Hawk Raiders' faces. Admittedly, I wasn't messing as heavily with him when he became Griffith's personal ride, but when presented with the literal antichrist of the demon cult you are a part of, it's hard to resist. The desired one being Griffith appears on the planet, and Zodd, sensing his duty was to serve, bows down. Even though he was one to create his own purpose, Zodd does respond to the natural order, becoming more of a puppet for Griffith than his own being. Even though it makes sense, I am not the biggest fan of this evolution in his character, however it does create more chances for him to clash with Guts, as we see upon the Hill of Swords shortly after. Even in his human form, his raw power can overwhelm Black Swordsman Guts, who has been shown to slaughter apostles without a second thought. Zodd promotes an interesting philosophy, claiming words lack elegance in favor of violence, and this summarizes his way of the blade in one panel in my opinion. He does not care for empty words, debating is pointless, claims are baseless, commitments are far from honest. Truth derives from the undeniable, being action, and the sword is one of the most efficient ways of producing that truth. His skill is incredible as usual, managing to push Guts back with little effort, even switching weapon mid-fight to dual wield. Guts' incredible sword pushes Zodd to enter his release form, and I will never not be tired of how the smoke blows out and his size increases from him as he assumes that beastly appearance, and this version of Guts stands no chance, easily being battered around like a toy before Griffith calls Zodd off, flying off with those magnificent demonic wings, and I'd sure love to ride Zodd. On his back, of course. His intelligence is also exhibited during his shaky yet effective alliance with Guts when the mighty Ganishka posed an impossible challenge for him alone. Relying on Sonya's prophetic warning about the choice he would have to make, he allows Guts to ride his back with the Dragon Slayer as the key to harming the Thundercloud. They have a flirtatious back and forth, much like the relationship with Skull Knight, always centered around violence and battle, and due to Guts' more human dialogue, this creates some real funny moments in a complete dick measuring contest. It is a classic case of uniting against a greater evil, and the two genuinely do make a brilliant partnership, the art as usual being stunningly striking. They successfully pierce the weak spot, Zodd overcoming his wish to fight and instead weaponizing the blade that once cut him in a beautiful spectacle that must have been awe-striking to the hopeless watchers down below. Although it completely wipes Guts out, his undying desire to draw blood from demonkind such as Griffith spikes a potential conflict in the short-lived allegiance, and Zodd boasts the futility of an attempt to fight back the might of the newfound Band of the Hawks. One gripe I've always had with Zodd's otherwise impressive design is his claws. They look as though if they got caught on something they'd rip out really easily. Is that me? It just makes my nails feel this phantom peeling. That isn't really a flaw, just a physical reaction I have to his character. Thankfully, Serpico steps in and Zodd withdraws, massive horn and all. After the explosion of Fantasia, the Neo Band of the Hawks enroll upon a cleanup of sorts. Is basically a sly political move to garner more positive reception for Griffith, as he is mending a very prominent issue, but it was of his own making, expelling all the hostile creatures of the astral layer in a complete fantasy battle royale. There is no complex narrative meaning behind this skirmish, it is just pure fun with unique and beautifully designed monsters smashing each other up, and of course the warlord Zodd is in the mixer. Zodd's position on the battlefield is second only to Griffith, and he operates within a group of the elites such as Locus, Irvine, and Grumbeld, launching over Griffith to take on the Hydra-like beast, feasting on his multiple heads with complete primal abandon. He is supported by Irvine's insane bowman power and then Grumbeld's flames, and even though we are meant to despise Apostle Kine, their group bravado is dope to see from a tactical and spectacle perspective. He and Grumbeld roar away the rest, and I can't lie, if Zodd roared at me after demolishing a colossal ass snake, I think I would just melt away as my body forfeited itself to his overwhelming intensity. We can be certain that the momentary alliance between Guts will never occur again following recent events within the story, as Z-Dog helped G-Dog capture Casca and bring Elfhelm to a crashing destruction, because if Guts ever sees Zodd again, it will be more on site than an ophthalmologist. Zodd may not have an overwhelming amount of appearances within the manga, but when he does, there is a high chance his presence is noticed, his wrath, power, wisdom and size tamed by none except Griffith. Speaking of which, let's discuss where Zodd's story may go in the future. Recent chapters have many people suggesting Zodd feels conflict within his heart about Griffith's operations, all based on his face from these two panels. This to me is complete waffle. Claiming Zodd would betray Griffith to join the resistance side just makes no narrative sense to me when Zodd was the first to bow to Griffith's omnipotent aura. He seeks the utmost strongest, and when he was easily defeated by Griffith in the dreamlike state, he became subservient to the will of Femto. While Zodd may not have been loving the treatment of Casca, it doesn't mean he cares about the feeble emotions of others. He is a hardened warrior operating on his own will to fight, but also a complete loyal servant to Griffith. So I believe Zodd will still be attacking the Kushan forces and Guts when they finally clash for the last time, and we may even get a conclusion with Skull Knight. Ultimately, I think Zodd should face his end, if it comes, against the Skeleton, as their feud has been running for centuries at this stage. They would be a very tasty undercard to the main event of whatever Guts and Griffith's story will conclude. Just imagine Falconia in flames, weaponry, armor, remains littering the ground, the biggest war in the history of the world, the screams of the dying and the silence of the dead, the warriors clashing with beasts of different realms, and Zodd and Skull Knight in the center, their very bodies shattered and shaking from every blow the other gives. And in the end, I do believe Skull Knight would leave victorious based on narrative implication, his speed and strength alongside insane hacks far outmatch that of Zodd, but Zodd would definitely give Skull Knight permanent damages, I reckon. The guy is insanely powerful as well. That's going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. The channel has been booming lately, and it really does please me to see that I can share my thoughts on such wonderful mangas such as Berserk to many. Until the next one, peace out.